All right. Well, good morning and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants event. My name is Geographic, and I'll be your host for today. We are into that second week of November now. Last week was crazy with our CNN Call to Earth Week events. We had a ton of live events, sometimes 4 or more each day, connecting us with scientists, explorers, adventurers, and conservationists who are really on the front lines of our changing planet and bringing back those really cool stories and solutions to us in the classroom and at home. If you missed those events and you want to check them out, you can find them on our YouTube channel, or if you head to our website, exploringbytheseat.com, you can find them there under our past lessons. Now, over the next few weeks, I'm excited for the theme we have on the go. It's our first time trying this theme where we're focusing on paleontology, archaeology, and geology. So we'll be talking to some really exciting scientists and explorers from around the world. Again, you can find those lessons on our website, and then a new newsletter should have hit your inbox sometime last night as well. So we're kicking things off. I can't think of a better person than my friend Nora Shawki. She is a National Geographic explorer and Egyptian archaeologist who has been excavating ancient sites in the Nile Delta and Sudan for over a decade. So she served as a field archaeologist on many expeditions in places around Egypt and northern Sudan. Her main focus project right now is at the Pyramids of Giza on the Ancient Egypt Research Associates team. And today we're going to mix things up a little bit. She's got a really cool lesson for us. So I'm going to reach backstage all the way to Cairo and see if I can get Nora in here with us. Hey, Nora, how are you?
Hey, Joe, how are you?
Good, good. It's so good to have you here with us live, Nora, kicking off this new series.
I am so excited. You know, the new museum opened in Egypt this year, so I'm ready and so excited to share a little bit about what I do with you guys.
Perfect. Well, we have a great group of classrooms from across North America, Canada and the US joining us. I'm going to pop some of them in really quickly if they want to give a big wave to Nora. There's a few of them hanging out backstage. Hey, everybody. We've got a bunch more hanging in on YouTube as well, so don't be shy to use that chat sidebar and send in your questions. But for now, Nora, I'm going to let you take over for a little bit.
All right. Thanks, Joe. So hi, everyone. I'm Nora, as Joe said, and I am an Egyptian archaeologist, and I will get right into it and share my screen with you guys. Everyone can see everything, right?
Looks good.
So I'm going to take you guys a little back in time for this session. We're going to talk about things that were written in stone, so ancient graffiti from ancient Egypt. So first of all, welcome to ancient Egypt. I'm sure some of you are familiar with Egypt. Maybe you learned about it in school or read about it in some books or saw even in some movies or documentaries these days. Egypt is quite popular. So ancient Egypt was one of the most amazing civilizations on Earth for over 3,000 years running straight. So the time it ignited was around 5,000 years ago from today. So the Nile River was like a superhighway. You have to imagine it with full of boats carrying people, food, building stones. And the pharaohs during the time in ancient Egypt would build temples, tombs, and obelisks that still stand today. So you can see some of it in this visual that I'm sharing right now. This is actually a reconstruction of ancient Egypt that's actually used in a video game today that Egyptologists actually use to teach in universities now. So you could see the pyramids, what it would have looked like back in ancient Egypt and how close it was to the Nile River. along so with all the tombs and the Sphinx, and you could see some obelisks in the background. This is just so you can get an overall picture. This is what parts of the temples look like in real life. These are photos I took myself in some of the temples down south in Egypt. So you could see what it looks like today, thousands of years later. You can see a lot of color still showing. So it's pretty remarkable. One of my favorite things is to find beautiful colors. And a little tip for you, if you ever come to one of these sites, always look up. Look up to the ceiling and you'll see the best preserved color because people haven't touched it or ruined it yet. Now, what is archaeology? So archaeologists are basically like detectives. We're detectives of the past. So we kind of piece puzzle pieces together to kind of understand the bigger picture of things. So we study basically what people left behind, people just like me and you. So buildings, tools, even little markings that they had on stone, anything like they wrote in their little journal, we would look for that. So my main focus is the average person in ancient Egypt. So people like you guys, students in schools or teachers or just the average Joe of ancient Egypt. And every rock or pebble or mark we find tells us such a huge story about the real people who lived a long time ago. So what we're after is the stories. This is me in action in one of the sites. This is actually a tomb shaft in one of the sites in Sudan, an ancient Egyptian site, but in Sudan. This is also some of the artifacts that we use to tell the stories about the real people. So you can see on the left, this is actually a coffin where we would find mummies inside these coffins, and you could see it's the facial expression of the actual person. So everything was really identifiable, and if you're lucky, you'll find someone's name written on it. And on the right-hand side, you can see pottery. You probably are familiar with this, but when we find pottery, usually it's broken. So what we do is we piece everything together to be able to get a full pot like this. And you could see there's little drawings on it. So this is a story, a part of the story of someone, an artisan, who actually did this drawing thousands of years ago. And this pottery can help us date the site. So we can actually tell you, how many thousands of years ago this pot was in use. And it would have been used to carry liquids or grains, a type of food for people. So it was like a storage vessel, just like our modern day Tupperware. So my last project, my most recent area of work, was in a place called Aswan. So here's a rough map of Egypt. I just wanted to show you guys. So the star on the top, that's Cairo. That's where I'm living right now, and I'm talking to you guys from Cairo. This is the capital of Egypt. You could see there's a little line, a greenish line that is in the middle of the whole country. This is the Nile River. It's smack dab in the middle. On the right and left, you could see, of course, it just looks like desert because it is. We have the Eastern Desert on the right and the Western Desert on the left. And then at the very bottom, there's a little yellow square. This is Aswan. I put an arrow to it. This is where my last project was. You can see how far away it is from where I am now. So down south, what used to be one of the capital cities of ancient Egypt. So this is an area called Aswan, as I said, southern Egypt, and it's famous for its pink granite stone. So it's a very hard type of stone. And ancient Egyptians cut stone here in this specific area to build their temples and statues across all of Egypt. And these quarries that exist in Aswan are like an ancient construction site that's frozen in time. So this is a stone quarry, as I said, where they would get all the stones to build all the structures we've seen. So this is an example of one of those structures. So you can see this is the facade. So that's the front level of a temple. And you can see the statues at the front. That would have been of the kings who built those statues. And then right in front of it, you can see this structure that looks like a needle pointing up. This is called an obelisk. Usually you would have two next to each other, but one did not survive at this temple, but we do have one that's standing, as you can see. So this is what my area of focus is, and I'm going to be talking about obelisks right now. This is one that's standing. Now, at the site I'm working at this quarry, as I mentioned, there's something interesting. There's an unfinished obelisk. So that means exactly what it's called. It was never finished. Now, why is this important? This is important, the unfinished one, because it is actually the largest stone ever attempted in ancient Egypt. If it was finished, it would have been 42 meters long, which is huge. And again, you saw in the previous picture, the obelisk is standing, right? So here it is horizontal, laying down. They were still in the process of carving it out of this quarry. So you can see they're in the midway construction zone in ancient Egypt. So this one is roughly from 1500 BC. So that's 3,500 years ago from today. So you can imagine how many lives have passed through this site. Now, it's unfinished for a very interesting reason. It's cracked. There's a crack at the top, and I'll show you in a second a zoomed in part. It cracked before it could ever be finished, so the workers left it completely behind. This gives archaeologists a snapshot, or a little picture, a glimpse of how these massive monuments were carved. So you can see directly in the middle, there's this long thing with straight edges. That is the obelisk itself, and you can see tiny people in the background. That just shows you how large this is. These are other angles I took myself. So on the left-hand side, we're right at that pointy tip that you saw when it was standing. That's pointy tip that's, straight up into the sky. Here it is, right as you can see, they were still in the middle of carving it. On the right-hand side, I'm showing you the whole crack. There's a huge crack that's right in the middle of the obelisk. This is why they had to abandon it and leave it. And on the side, though, the top part looks smooth, right? But on the side, you could see it's not smooth. So that's literally where they stopped midway. So this shows us what kind of materials and tools they were using to pound through this hard granite stone. And of course, they didn't have any of the same tools we have today, and they didn't have, technology the same way we have today. So they were doing all of this by hand. So what I'm studying is how did they do this, because it looks like such a difficult task. So now if you look closely on these stone images, you can see little grooves and wedges. This is actually where they would put tools inside. So it was thought to always have been copper. Copper was the strongest thing that could go hit through granite stone because it was the hardest stone at the time. So what is thought is they would put copper tools, hammers and chisels into these wedges to crack the stones. Another theory is that wood would be put inside these wedges, and then they would soak it in water. And when wood is soaked in water, it expands and then naturally cracks the stones. So we still have a couple working theories, and we're still figuring it out. How exactly did they do it? Now, if you can see in the background on the right-hand photo, looks like there's something sketched in red in the far distance. This is what I was studying lately. So these are what I call the hands that built Egypt. So if you look on the quarry walls, we find marks made by the ancient stoneworkers. These are the real people that built Egypt. So these are thousands of years old, these markings. These are people who are working day to day in the quarry, and these marks show the teams, the tools, and even personal symbols, which is a bit like ancient graffiti. You can even look at it like ancient emojis. They were drawing because not everyone in ancient Egypt could read and write at the time. So if you couldn't write hieroglyphics, which is what the language was, like English is for us for this session, they would draw pictures. So we can trace from these pictures, we can trace how they organized, worked together, and took pride in their craft. Now, what's interesting in this image, do you guys recognize what it looks like? They're actually ostriches. So an ostrich you might be familiar with an ostrich, but in Egypt, they don't exist today. So it's not common for you to see one around. What makes this sketch specifically interesting means that the ostriches were actually so abundant in ancient Egypt at the time of this carving. So this shows us a huge landscape and shows us what the environment looked like back then and what kind of animals were around them. So this is one aspect of it. And another thing, can you guys tell what's here? I have the arrows to kind of point it out. They're not as clear because, again, these are over 3,000 years old. These are actually dolphins. So this is pretty wild because we have dolphins in Egypt, but on the Red Sea. So the Red Sea is one of the bodies of water on the borders Egypt from the eastern desert side. Now, what's interesting is Aswan is quite far from the Red Sea by, of course, walking. Of course, they did not have cars at the time. So this signifies that some of the workers must have been from other cities. So they actually came from cities along the Red Sea where they would see dolphins quite a bit and come to work at the quarry because it was such an important job for the country, for ancient Egypt. And if you see, it's super, super faint, but on the right-hand side where the right arrow is, there's actually a sketch of an obelisk. So it shows you when the workers were taking their break, when they could drink water or have a snack, they would sketch out the obelisk that they were actually carving out and building. Now, what do we learn from these marks? Every mark is basically a message from the past. This tells us about the teamwork, the skill, and even their creativity during their long, long days of work in a desert, hot environment that is under a really, really strong sun. It is hard even today for us to work, even as archaeologists. So I can't imagine what long days they must have had just using a hammer and a chisel to crack through this really, really hard granite stone. So ancient builders weren't just laborers, they weren't just workers. This shows us that they were engineers, they were artists, and problem solvers. This is an interesting thing because this is actually an example of dolerite. So this is a really hard stone, much harder than the granite. And this is actually what they would have used to pound on the granite by hand. We have parts of it that show, parts of it, of the stone that's caved in, kind of. So they would hold it the way I'm holding it in this picture and pound through. So you can imagine how hard this was to do on a day-to-day basis. Now, I want to say you are also an explorer. So, archaeology is basically about asking questions and noticing details. I was always super, super curious when I was growing up, and that's why I ended up getting into the field of archaeology in ancient Egypt because I had so many questions. How did they build the pyramids? How did they build these obelisks? How did they, sail through the Nile? We had to look for all this evidence, and I was just so curious. So I want to encourage you that you can be an explorer in your own backyard as well. So take a moment and think about it. What stories can the objects around you tell? What stories do you think are around you in your school or in your neighborhood or your local museum, for example? So the past is never truly gone. It's just waiting to be discovered at the end of the day. So the graffiti we saw today is just a tiny, tiny little glimpse of what it looked like back then in ancient Egypt. So what we do as archaeologists, we piece together all of these little fun facts and these little puzzle pieces, and we put them together to get a bigger picture to see how people were living back then. So this is just a little tidbit I showed you guys today, but I'm more than happy to have any questions from you guys. And if you think of any of them later, here are my contact details for the teachers. Please go ahead and take them and feel free to send me questions anytime. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Nora. It really is amazing to think of, the things that they were building thousands of years ago. I think there's still lots of things we don't understand, which what makes the work that you're doing so important. It must be really cool in your line of work to be able to touch and feel and hold some of these artifacts that people were using in ancient Egypt thousands of years ago. And I wonder, before we do a Kahoot quiz, that graffiti found in this site, is that pretty common? Do you see that in other areas where you've worked?
Oop, I think the sound is gone.
Uh-oh. How about now? Can you hear me now, Nora? Okay, let's see if we can help Nora quickly with her sound. Classrooms, give me a thumbs up if you can still hear me okay. I just want to make sure. Yeah, okay, so it's Nora's sound. Okay. I'm just sending her a quick message. If she exits and comes back in, I think that might kick her sound back in for us. Okay, there she goes. So we are going to have a Kahoot quiz after we talk to Nora for a moment. So maybe I'll put that up on the screen and we can get ready with that Kahoot quiz. So just give me a second and I will put it up on the screen for everybody. And then we'll get into our Q&A action. So if you are on YouTube, don't be shy to start putting some questions in to that YouTube chat. Let's get this Kahoot quiz up on the screen. And we'll pick this one. Okay. So if you are going to play Kahoot with us today, you can go to kahoot.it. Kahoot.it. You can see it up there on the left. Your PIN number 550-0857. Let's bring Nora in. Hey, Nora, can you hear me now?
I can, but it's a little wonky, but it's okay.
Okay. We'll make do with what we've got, and hopefully it'll be okay. I was just saying, Nora, it was a great presentation. It must be amazing to be out to see these ancient structures, try and piece together the mystery of how they were made, and to actually hold some of these artifacts in your hand must be pretty special.
It is, yeah, it is definitely really, really special to be able to hold something for the first time after thousands of years.
Yeah. And as we have classrooms joining in the Kahoot here, the graffiti that you shared with us, I was wondering if that was something that's really common. Do you see it on other sites?
It is not that common. That's why it's so special to find it. It's very hard to find. We've actually found some graffiti in the pyramids themselves, the Pyramids of Giza, but that were never meant to be seen. Most of this graffiti is just doodles.
Yeah. All right. Very cool. Okay. So classrooms on YouTube, send in your questions. We've got a great group of classrooms come together for the Kahoot, which is going to be fun. Why don't I get a classroom question while we give another few seconds for classrooms to join? So, fifth graders, I see someone up the camera, Mrs. Leo's class. Let me bring you in. How are we doing today, grade 5?
Good.
Good. Let's get your question.
The Egypts made like the tall tower. Did they have any ladders to use to make the tall buildings?
I mean, that's a great question. We found, it depends which time through the civilization, because this was thousands of years. So again, these structures are massive. So they didn't have a ladder per se to go all the way up, for example, an obelisk or the pyramids, but they did something like a makeshift ladder, for example, not the type we see, but a lot of them put, layers of sand and mud that you can put up and up and up, and you keep going up. And this was how they would do scaffolding that you see when they're building buildings today in modern day times. So they would put layers of sand and kind of use that as like a ramp to go up, and then they would be able to do the inscriptions or paint or whatnot. So and it was easily taken down as well. So this was the easiest way they could do these ramps.
Thank you.
Thank you for your great question.
Great question to get us started. And I think things have slowed down on Kahoot, so I think we are ready to play. We have 4 questions, some true or false, some multiple choice. The quicker you put in the right answer, the more points you're going to get. So let's play some Kahoot, and then let's devote the rest of our time to Q&A action. So we'll count in here. And we've got our first multiple choice coming your way. About how long did the ancient Egyptian civilization last? Was it 1,000 years, 2,000 years, 3,000 years, or 4,000 years? So what do you think is the best answer here? 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, or 4,000 years? Got a few more seconds to lock something in. All right, good job, crew. We know it was about 3,000 years. That's pretty impressive. So let's take a look. Oops, I almost pushed the wrong button. There we go. Let's take a look at our leaderboard. The Arctic heron holding down that top spot, but only by a point, so it is close. We've got a true or false coming your way. Archaeologists are detectives studying what people left behind. What do you think? Is that true or is that false? Archaeologists are detectives studying what people left behind. Got about 10 seconds to lock something in. But remember, the quicker you do, the more points are on offer. All right. Good job, crew. That was a nice, easy one. Definitely looking at what was left behind, piecing things together. And Nora, I'm sure you've had times where you and your team have just stared and stared at something, wondering what it was for. And then maybe you don't get the breakthrough moment, or you have that aha moment that kind of pieces things together.
We spend a lot of time thinking and figuring things out. It's not always so obvious. So that's also the exciting part, because it changes all the time.
All right. What do we have here? Arctic Heron holding on tight. We've got another true or false coming your way. Nora's last project was in Alexandria. So we've got 45 answers in the first 3 seconds, so they're pretty fast. What do you think? Nora's last project was in Alexandria. True or false? You've got about...
They're confident.
They are confident. They're fast. 5 seconds. Oh, they beat the timer. Good job, crew. That's absolutely false. We know it was in Aswan. Have you ever done anything around Alexandria?
I did, but in my beginning of my career. But yeah, Alexandria is famous for, it's up north.
Yeah.
So very up north. They do start with A, both of them, but Alexandria is up north, and that's known more with Cleopatra and her family were ruling from there.
All right. One more question to come your way. I don't think the Arctic Heron's going to let the lead go, but it's only 3 points. So if someone's fast, they can take it in the last one. How tall would the unfinished obelisk have been? So if it had been finished, would it have been 10 meters, 23 meters, 31 meters, or 42 meters high? We know it would have been pretty darn tall. But what do you think? Was it 10 meters, 23 meters, 31 meters, or 42 meters if it had been finished? Okay, there we go. Good job, crew. 42 meters. Let's take a look at our podium. In third place, we've got the cute rooster. In second place, the blue cassowary. What's going on the top of that leaderboard? The Arctic Heron holding on tape to tape. All right. Good job, crew. Thanks for playing along with us. Let's turn off that music. And let's go back to Q&A. So the first question I have here in the YouTube chat.
Lost your sound again.
Did you lose the sound again? Okay. All right, we'll have Nora do the exit and enter again and see if the sound will come back for us. It's kind of funny. Seems anytime there's a screen share, her sound disappears. But let's get it back here, and then we'll get our questions. I see a couple on YouTube. I see camera groups standing up, so we're going to come your way very, very shortly once we have Nora back in here with us. So thanks for playing Hoot with us, and I think we've got Nora back here already. Perfect. Something about the screen share, Nora. When we end a screen share, your sound goes away. But
yeah, I don't know.
That's okay.
Anyway.
We're done with screen shares. It's just going to be us hanging out now. So before I grab some camera classrooms, I want to grab this first question here from YouTube. So when we see these obelisks, we see intricate designs on them, usually carvings. So would those have been done prior to raising them?
That's a really, really good question, because we don't have a blueprint of everything. But what is thought is that no, they would have actually moved them from the quarry, because this was a long, long process, okay? They would carve it out from the quarry, get it somehow on barges, which are wooden barges, that would move these huge obelisks on the Nile River and use the water to make it, to move it easier than on land, of course. That would take forever. And then once they get them off these barges, off the Nile, and then take them to the temple where it should be placed, then they have to spend a really long time erecting it all the way up vertically with tons of ropes and, you know, almost 100 men probably to lift it. So it's so risky that any of this would crack again. So if it cracked and then they had already done all the carvings and paintings, would have been a long waste of their time.
Yeah.
So what is most thought is that they would have moved it plain and bare, but polished. So it would have been smoothed down, sanded down and flat, erected, and then they would start the process of layering it around it with sand or mud all the way to the top and slowly carve it and paint it, because that would take another very painstaking process as well. But that's a great, great question.
All right. Let's get some classes in here. We're going to go to Texas first, to Mernon Elementary. Some 4th and 5th graders. How are we doing? There they are.
Okay, now you can ask. What's the biggest discovery you ever made?
Biggest or coolest? I don't know. I think as archaeologists, we think everything is like the biggest discovery, even if it's tiny for us. I would think one of the biggest ones I was a part of a team that discovered this, was a temple. So a whole temple that was buried underground for thousands of years that we didn't know was there. We weren't even looking for it, and it happened to be right underneath the surface. So after years of working, I think I was working for 7 years at this site, then we finally found foundation blocks, so huge limestone blocks of this temple. Then we continued to work there for a couple years till we found any tiny little inscription, so any markings that could tell us who the temple belonged to and when it was built. So I would say a temple would have been one of my coolest discoveries.
All right, very cool. What do you think, Texas? You have a second one there for us before we jump to another classroom? Excellent.
Right there. Go. What is the oldest artifact you found?
That's a great one. The oldest artifact I've personally found would have been from the New Kingdom. So this is around 1500 BC. So that's 3,500 years old. The oldest thing I found was a necklace. So it was actually a beaded necklace with lapis lazuli beads, which are blue, super, super blue beads with gold flecks, like gold dots on it. I found all the beads still sewn as a necklace, and this was one of my favorite finds, actually, and the oldest, that it still survived. The string did not survive, but the beads were exactly how they would have been. So that was the best one, for sure.
All right, great questions. We'll try to come back your way to see if you have anything else for us. We've got Mr. Lavogue's class in Florida hanging out with us today. How are we doing today?
We're doing well. We have a good question. Go ahead, Owen.
So would writing this graffiti be illegal?
Like would the workers have gotten in trouble for doing the graffiti if they were caught?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. 100%. They would have gotten caught. They would have gotten in trouble. This was a huge no-no. You are not supposed to do it. It's the equivalent of, if you are writing your name all over the school board in class in the middle of a session. It's the same thing. So definitely they were doing it not thinking it would be seen. So we think this corner that it was in was probably a shaded break area that, the cool kids would probably hang out there, not thinking that their boss was going to see them while they were doing construction. So we always find graffiti hidden in areas that we're not even supposed to be in, but we end up finding that as archaeologists.
All right, great question. You guys have another one handy for us?
Go, Addison, you want to ask?
Okay. So it's like a two-part question. One, do the pharaohs share their tombs? Like, do they share them, or is it just one pharaoh?
So it's just one. Yeah, you heard that, right, Nora?
Yeah, that's also a really good question. So it depends. Ideally, they would like to have the tomb all for themselves, but it depends. It costs a lot of money, or costs a lot at the time before they even had money. So there was a lot that went into that process. But usually, if you were wealthy enough, you would have a huge tomb just for yourself. But we do find lots of tombs that have families, entire families in the same tomb. Sometimes we also find multiple families in one tomb. And sometimes we find people that had nothing to do with that family in a tomb. So this is actually because a lot of people reuse previous tombs that they found. So it gets more and more complicated when we find different bodies in different mummies. But it's definitely meant to be just for you. So your tomb with your favorite things, your favorite day-to-day objects, you would take, your favorite notebook, your favorite bag, your favorite food, put it all in that tomb with you. So that's the concept of what they were doing. So ideally, you'd be alone.
Hey, Nora, we couldn't help but notice your awesome Lego Great Pyramid vine.
Oh, did you see it?
We had a bunch of people point that out.
Oh, it is a great gift. Ask for it and for Christmas if you don't have it yet. It's a great Lego set.
Okay, very cool. Great questions too. We'll come back your way. We'll check in closer to the end and see if we have a couple more. We're going to head back to Canada with our grade 5s. There they are.
Hi. So, how long did it take to make like a pyramid?
Oh, well, this is the $1 million question. We all want to know how long it took, how did they do it? So our estimates, it probably took around 20 to 30 years just for one. And in Giza, there's 3 next to each other. But the Great Pyramid of Giza, the biggest one, which is this Lego model, is actually of the Great One. We think 20 to 30 years. And we found some evidence of the workmen that actually built it. And it shows that there was groups and it was super, super organized and different shifts of workmen to build it. But yeah, it took a lifetime, literally, to be able to finish something that large and amazing.
Thank you. What part of Egypt did you study like the most that you like know the most about?
Where did I study them the most?
No, like in Egypt. What part, like what city or country in Egypt did you study the most that you know the most about?
Well, I'm from Cairo, so I know a lot about Cairo and Giza. Giza and Cairo are just like sister cities, basically, that have a road between them. But the place I know the most about, yeah, I would say Giza. Giza and Alexandria, where you guys guessed something else. Alexandria was one of my specialties when I was studying my bachelor's. So Alexandria is super up north. That's also one of my favorites. I was really obsessed with Cleopatra when I was growing up and that whole world. And, there's a lot of her stuff underwater and you needed to do underwater archaeology, but I wasn't the best swimmer. So I didn't study that full time. So now I went down south all the way to Luxor and Aswan, where we see these huge structures. And now I'm trying to figure out who were the real people who are building that.
Also, I have one more. Were you born in Egypt?
Yes. No, I was actually, no. I was born in the U.S. If anyone knows, Champaign, Illinois, so a little out of Chicago. But I moved back to Egypt when I was 5 years old, and I've lived here ever since. And my parents are both Egyptian, and my entire family. So, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did they have like medicine in ancient Egypt?
Oh my God, that's one of my favorite topics as well. Yes, they surprisingly did have medicine in ancient Egypt, and there's a temple named Komombo, which is actually down south, also next to this site Aswan, and we have medical instruments etched out on the temple walls, literally. So you can actually see that they had scissors. Scissors are literally on the wall. They had cupping, so the cupping technique that you do for blood circulation. They had knives, all these medical instruments that we kind of have in modern day today. They had it thousands of years ago, at least 2,000 years ago from this temple. So they were pretty advanced for back then. And this was also a temple known for fertility and giving birth. So a lot of women would have chairs that they could give birth on in this temple. And there were doctors that would study this to be able to help save everyone. And I have books actually about ancient Egyptian medicine, and there's lots and lots of uses that they use natural things like plants and things from their environment to help cure themselves.
Okay.
All right, very cool. Well, we're going to do a speed round through our classrooms in just a moment, but there's a great question on YouTube, Nora, that really kind of goes with the kind of theme of being a detective. And so this group here is wondering, how do you know where to look?
Yeah. If we didn't have technology, we'd be looking blindly all over the empty sand in Egypt. We actually have technology that helps us do things much better and quicker now. One of my specialties is geophysical surveying. So this is using some tools, one specifically called a magnetometer. So you're able to kind of get an X-ray of the ground, just like the way you get an X-ray of your arm if you broke it or your leg. It's kind of the same concept, and we're able to get an image that shows us a structure. So this can tell me by the image and what I studied, I'll know if it was a temple or if it was a domestic structure like a home, or if it was a pyramid foundation, we'll know from this technology. And once we have the data from this technology, we're able to start digging and we know where exactly to go. But again, you can never confirm anything until you dig yourself. Technology can also only take you so far, but it's definitely helped us narrow down where to dig, or we would take years and years till we found something. That's a great question. Thank you.
All right. So let's see what we have here. Caesar's wondering, Caesar's joining us all the way from Nicaragua, and Caesar's wondering, let's say you're collecting pieces of pottery or a jar, but you don't find them all. Is it still important? Is it still worth keeping those pieces?
Yes, that is also really important. So yeah, we don't always find all the pieces together. We would love to, but life isn't so easy all the time. So we do find pieces that are just broken and never, you can never attach them, but some are still important. It depends. We call them diagnostic pieces. So that means it's either the neck, like for example, here's my water bottle. If this part, which is the neck of the bottle, this can help us. I can tell you how big the bottle was just from the neck. The base, the bottom of the pot, this is also super useful. And any part that has writing or drawings. So this would basically help us envision it, and we're able to draw it and sketch it out with those diagnostic pieces. But if it's the middle part, that's just a body piece, usually it's not as useful for us, but we still draw everything, take pictures, we document it, everything is written down, we don't get rid of anything. Every single piece is important. But definitely, yeah, that's a great question. We still can get a lot of information even if we don't have the full piece. Thank
Okay.
you.
Let's crash through a few more camera classrooms. So let's bring our crew in Texas back in, see if they have something for us.
How do archaeologists decide which parts of a site to excavate and which to leave untouched?
Also, yeah, this is very difficult for us. If it was up to us, we would be able to dig entire sites, but we have to prioritize what's important. So if we already have a part of the temple exposed and shown, dug out, we will have to complete the whole structure, for example. If we have parts that we know of the site that are under threat, so we have also a lot of modern people in Egypt living on top of the ancient world. So sometimes we lose a part of that land because people are going to build homes there. So usually that area would be an area of focus for us to focus on quicker, because we know once someone builds their current home today on top of that land, we will lose it forever. So we have some areas that are more priorities than others, but areas that, like the Giza Plateau where the pyramids are, that's a huge archaeological site and it's protected by the government. So that means no one can build there. So we have time to be able to take our time to dig properly. But other areas, we don't have that luxury. So yeah, we definitely have to pick whatever is exposed first, usually, and then we'll take it from there, step by step.
All right. Let's head back to Florida. Let's see what we've got in Florida.
Caleb, go ahead.
What's like one part of Egypt that you would like want to explore the most?
Someplace you haven't been in Egypt that you really want to investigate?
Yeah.
There's a site in the Eastern Desert. I'm dying to go work there, but I haven't yet. It's a really, really remote area in the desert. There's no water source. There's nothing around you, so it would be really hard to dig, but I will do it someday. But you have to go camp out there, and it's gonna be tough. But it's an ancient quarry that was there, even older than the one I just showed you, and this one is untouched. Imagine the workers who just worked there thousands of years ago dropped their tools and left. Because it's such a remote area, no one's ever been there since. So it's literally like going into a time capsule and back in time. So it's my dream to go work there and be able to study and document what they left behind.
All right. Great question. One more trip to Canada with our fifth graders.
My question is, what was your most expensive item that you found in Cairo?
One of the most valuable pieces that I found.
Yeah.
Probably we find gold, a lot of gold jewelry a lot of the time. We don't say it all the time when we're on sites because gold isn't what we're after, but gold would be one of the most valuable pieces and very cool because the jewelry is very personal. So it means someone made a choice at one point in time to wear that ring or wear that necklace. So it tells us another cool story about people.
Cool.
Thank you.
What would happen if the ancient Egyptians didn't notice the crack and they just kept on working on it?
It would have eventually cracked, and that would have been very upsetting once it was already all the way onto the Nile. But once they saw that crack, they knew it was bad luck, and they were very, very superstitious. So everything stopped immediately because they thought that, worse things were going to happen to them.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do some things in the past in Egypt work the same right now?
Sorry?
Do some things in the past in Egypt work the same things like right now?
Yes, a lot of people in some of the villages up north in Egypt and south actually still live the same way people used to live in ancient Egypt. They build their houses the same way, from mud brick and straw roofs, very simple, and they eat a lot of the same things. So there's a lot of similarities from thousands of years ago till today. People are still people at the end of the day. So, you can always find connections.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How old would you need to be to start building? Start building?
Well, a lot of the from the data that we have of the human activity during this area, they had to be fit, very fit. People who had good energy levels to be able to lift all these stones and work long days. So you'd have people around in their 20s, at their prime. So around in their, I'd say 20 to 30s would have been the prime time for them to be able to build.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if you know the exact number, but can you tell me an estimate of how many objects you found?
Oh, in my whole life, thousands of objects. We literally find thousands just in one dig season. So you can imagine over lifetimes, they're quite a bit, from the tiniest to the biggest.
All right. Thanks, fifth graders. You guys had a nice run of questions. So if any of our other camera classrooms have a follow-up, you can give me a wave and I'll visit your class really quickly. So I'll watch my little screens backstage and see if I see a wave. Maybe? Okay. Texas, did you have another one? Yep. Okay.
How often do you find artifacts?
I find artifacts whenever I'm on a dig season. So that's a couple months of the year. So right now I'm at home, of course, in Cairo. But when I'm digging at any of these sites, I'm digging in a month. In a month's time, I will be on site digging. So that's when I will be finding, hopefully, artifacts during that time. So it'll usually be 2 seasons for the year. So 2 seasons during the year where we excavate at sites and find artifacts.
All right, thank you. And we'll check in for Florida crew one more time, see if they have one more for us.
We got to get to our next class, Joe. Sorry.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, crew.
Bye, guys.
All right. Well, Nora, I want to start off with actually, maybe I'll squeeze this one in from online because this kind of will tie things up maybe. So you're on a site, you spend months there, you find amazing things. What happens to the artifacts afterwards?
Yes, so we document all these artifacts, we study them, we spend a long process, documenting every single little inch of it, and we have them in our storeroom in a magazine where we keep everything stored. And then some pieces end up in the museums, and we just opened a new museum in Egypt. So a lot of these objects go to the museum there, so people such as you guys can go visit and see, and there's a label that says exactly where it came from and what it means. So more people can be exposed to the things that we find, so we can see the bigger picture altogether.
Okay. Well, let's start off with a shout out to our classrooms. Thank you so much for all the great questions today. Thanks for playing Kahoot with us, and a shout out to classrooms who couldn't make it with the time zone. I know you'll be tuning in later today. Yeah, thanks for joining us later. Nora, thank you. It's always great to steal some of your time and get that kind of little peek into the world of the workers who are often maybe not thought about as much as the grand folks that these structures were made for.
100%. Thank you so much, Joe. And thank you for the lovely questions from everyone. Happy to answer any more in the future. Thank you so much.
All right. I've got a couple more there backstage. You guys want to give a big wave, a goodbye, and thank you. I know our Florida class has gone out for the day, but there we go.
I'm
There's a
gonna
big
record you
classroom.
guys. Ah.
Thanks, everyone. Good to see you. We're going to sign off for now. Hope to see you in more events.
Bye, guys.
Maybe like that.